All right, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start out this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Akwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops, a great millstone that rule well, that teach well while learning truth 100% according to the Bible. I also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 men, prophet servants, scattered abroad the four corners of the earth, and shalom to you, Akwaf, which are you sisters that are sincere, your children, shalom. And in today's video is going to be building off this video that I seen Fox upload. And you know we got to take everything with a grain of salt that these mainstream media news outlets be uploading. But I found this one interesting, where you basically got them saying that, basically blackouts are going to be coming to the U.S. in the very near future. And we know that all of these things are going to take place because we're getting ready to come into a time, like no other, man, that the scriptures have said will come in the latter days, which are the time that we're in now. So we know that there will be blackouts and things of that nature, And then ultimately for them to come in with this new system, they have to, do away with this system that we're currently up under. So we know that there's going to be blackouts, and things like that ultimately occurring in the very near future. But I'm going to get this video playing, and then I'm going to get a few precepts, and Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. But with that being said, fair use, 1976 Copyright Act, fair use.
Because we need double to be successful with AI, which is the biggest thing now. We need double the electricity that we have, which is hard to believe. We need even more than that.
Right, and you basically heard what it is he said, He basically talking about, for their new world order that they're trying to establish, which is going to be short-lived, they ultimately need a lot of, electricity, a lot of energy and things of that nature, right? Because they're trying to ultimately bring in this new system, man. And that's what all of this stuff is setting up towards, So like I said, in order for them to bring in a new system, they're going to have to currently do away with the one that we're under, right? And we know that's coming in the very near future, man. It's all part of prophecy.
New warning from the Energy Department. According to new projections, Americans could face up to 800 hours of blackouts per year by 2030. That's more than a...
Right? So you got a gist of just basically what it is they're talking about, that the American people could face 800 hours worth of blackouts between now to 2030, man. Right? So, they're preparing people's mind for what's to come, man, because like I said, we're getting ready to come into a time that is about to be very chaotic, man. And that's what's going to ultimately stem for this, because what you think people are going to do when they have no power, when they have no resources, when they have no internet and all of these things that these people have now, is going to create a lot of violence and chaos, right? And that's what's going to stem from this. So I'm actually getting this precept that I got. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3. And I'm starting at verse 1. It said, "This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come," right? And I'm going to look at that word perilous, right? For edification's sake. Because this is the time and season that we're in. We're living in a very, chaotic time, man. We're coming into a time like none other, man. So that it's going to be all of these things taking place, right? This is the definition of the word perilous on the AI overview. It goes into a time full of danger or risk, right? And I'm going to go into some similar words of it, right? It goes into unsafe, right? Risky, hazardous, dangerous, right? Yeah, because we're coming into some very dangerous times, man. As we get closer and closer to this end that's ultimately amongst us, man, the end of Esau's system, the more we're going to see, evils ultimately come upon this society, mainly here in America, but the world in general. And I'm actually getting that precept. This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 14, starting verse 16. It says, "For yet greater evils," meaning bad times, "than those which thou hast seen happen shall be done hereafter," right? So each day that goes by is going to get worse than the last. So, hey, we're coming into that time, man. We're in it now. But, hey, you don't know what's bound to take place, right? And this is verse 17. "For look how much the world shall be wicked through age, so much the more shall evils," right, "increase upon them that dwell therein." These are going to be part of those evils that Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah is going to allow this devil to do in these latter times, right? Which is all being controlled by the Lord. But we know that there's going to be some very, terrible times coming here for this place, America, man, and these Babylonians. That's what's coming to this place. A lot of disaster, a lot of chaos, a lot of, uncertainty, man. That's just the time and season that we're in, right? So I'm actually getting another precept that I got just touching on the times that are to come, man. Because, hey, these are all part of those plagues that the Lord is going to bring upon this place. Blackouts, famines, shortages of food, people not having power and things of that nature. And we know that ultimately, the power is very important because the power also connects to the water and all of these other different types of things. So like I said, all of this stuff is going to create chaos, man, in this place. And that's ultimately what these elites want, because that goes all according to their Agenda 2030, right? Going along with the Georgia Guidestones about them ultimately want to depopulate the earth and get the number down to a small amount where they're able to control all the people. So, hey, they're going to allow these disasters to come forth. And ultimately, it's Yahweh Bashim Yahushua who's creating it. But he's going to allow Esau to do these things to bring forth a lot of judgment in these latter days that we're living in. So events like this are going to take place, man, in the very near future. Right? So this is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, right? And I'm going to start at verse 5, right? And I bring this scripture out a lot, but hey, this is the time and season that we're in. This is what's about to happen. This is the times that we're coming into. It says, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. And a plague is also going into a blackout, man. Because guess what? Once the power goes out, then guess what? A lot of these stores that have food is going to spoil. It's going to rotten. It's going to go bad. So that's going to create the famine, right? So all of these things are going to happen. It said the sword, right? Because once you got no power, guess what? It's going to create a lot of violence in these inner cities, man. People are going to be fighting against each other. That's going to raise up the tensions even more than it already is in this place, right? Then it says famine, right? Because you're going to have the electricity being off. So a lot of these food are going to go bad quickly, man, because once you don't have the refrigerating units and all of these things, which are ran by power working, then guess what? A lot of food is going to go bad overnight. So guess what? That's going to bring a famine, right? It says death and destruction, man, right? Verse 6, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Therefore saith the Lord, right? So we're getting ready to come into a time, or we're already in that time, where the Lord is about to plague this place, America, with all types of evils, man, coming from all sides, man. That's why, as it says right here, I'm going to get that precept as well. This is St. Matthew, chapter 24, and I'm going to start at verse 21, right? It says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And this is the time and season that we're in. And I'm actually looking at that word tribulation as well for edification. Because this is a time that we're coming into, a time of tribulation like never before, that these people have never seen in this earth, man. And it's manifesting quickly, right? And everything that we ultimately just see happening throughout the world and through the media and the things that they're pushing out and the information we're coming across, we could tell that we're getting closer to that time. So this is the definition of tribulation on the AI overview. It said it refers to a state of suffering, distress, or affliction. And that's what the Lord is ultimately about to bring upon these people here in America, man. A lot of distress and afflictions, suffering. That's the time and season that we're in. And like I said, this is only going to create more chaos. It's going to create more people panicking, more fear, more violence, more evils, and more ultimately uprisings of the people, man. Because what you think these people are going to do when all lights go out, man? They're going to go crazy, man. These people are going to, and all of these are part of the prophecies, because the Lord said in St. Matthew 24:12, and because iniquity shall abound, meaning sin upon sin, the love of many shall wax cold. And that word cold in the Greek goes into psychos, or crazy, people losing their mind. And when these people have their internet, their Wi-Fi, all of the different things, their phones and the things that these people cannot live without taken away from them via these blackouts that occur, these people going to go crazy, man. And like I said, we know that Esau has to bring the blackout, because that's going to be justified for this devil bringing in that MOTB system, which we know is going to happen because it's a part of prophecy. So everything is being set up, man. Like I said, that's why it tells us in 2 Corinthians 2:11, lest Satan, meaning our adversary, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. I mean, this man can ultimately hit the system and blame it on the blackout, blame it on it not being enough power and things of that nature. I mean, there's no telling what this man will do, or what he's capable of doing. But hey, we know that ultimately all of this is the Lord's doing, at the end of the day. So I'm going to read this 2 Esdras 15 and verse 8. It said, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves, right? Because everybody in this country, America, mainly of the 2/3 of our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, you people love being wicked. So the Lord is going to give this man Nero, right, which is Donald Trump, these devils, the power to bring chaos to this place, America, man. And they're going to do it. And it's ultimately the Lord that's controlling it. But he's going to use Esau on the left-hand side to do a lot of these things, man, right, to bring forth that ordo ab chaos, man, because it's all going according to prophecy. So these things are going to take place, right? And it says, which they wickedly exercise themselves, behold, the innocent and the righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And that's the elect. Lord's will we be at that number. We're complaining continually for the Lord to deliver us and get us out of these terrible situations that we're ultimately in, right? So the Lord is speeding up the time, and I'm actually go to that precept as well, right? This is St. Matthew 24. And I read 21, I'm going to go to verse 22. It said, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. So this is the time and season that we're coming in, where it's about to get really bad out here in the very near future, man. These things can pop off today. They can pop off tomorrow. It's whenever the Lord put the spirit on this devil to do what he ultimately is going to do, right? But we know that we're living in these times, right? That's why the Lord told us this, right? This is Ephesians chapter 5, and I'm going to start at verse 15, right? But I'm going to read all the way to verse 17 in the KJV, right? And it says, see then that you walk circumspectly. And that's what we got to be doing in these times, brothers and sisters, now more than ever, because we're knowing that, hey, we're living in a very dangerous time, man. We're living in perilous times where anything is bound to happen. This stuff can pop off any given time of the hour or the day, so that's why it's important for us to always be observant, watching the things that are happening. We know that that's what the Lord told us to be in the spirit in anyway, right? And I'm going to go to that precept and I'm going to come back. This is 1 Peter chapter 4, and I'm going to start at verse 7, right, in the KJV. It says, but the end, right, of all things is at hand. And we can see that through the various prophecies that are occurring, that we're at the end, right? It says, be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. So we got to be watching everything that's happening around us, everything that's happening in the world with the events as far as with prophecy that are happening, that are taking place, everything that these devils are doing. We got to be watching all of those things. And this is the reason why, right? I'm going to get back to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15. It says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, right, but as wise, right? Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil, right? And this is verse 17. It said, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is, right? And what's the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua? To bring forth evil, to bring forth judgment, to bring forth chaos into this earth, man, right? And we know that because that's what the Lord said, right? And I'm going to get that precept. This is Matthew chapter 10. And I'm going to go to verse 34. It said, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword, right? That sword represents division, represents chaos, represents calamities, represents judgment. So us knowing that, that's why we got to be circumspect, because we never know when the Lord can allow these things to actually pop off, man. So we got to always be vigilant and be watching, and paying attention to what's happening around us, man. As it tells you in this scripture right here, I'm going to get 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And I'm going to start at verse 3, right? Through the Spirit. It says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape, right? And we know that they've been talking about peace a lot lately, especially with that war that's going on over there in the Middle East, right? Whole ceasefire and all of these different types of things and stuff like that. Then you now got Iran coming out now telling America to choose war, to choose peace, right? So we're living in a time where you just continuously hearing peace being taught about and being, spoken in the atmosphere, in the algorithm. That's what they're pushing to the people, right? But hey, these people are asleep. So ultimately, they're going to believe that we're living in a time of peace. But us brothers and sisters are the hopeful elect. We ultimately know what time of season that we're in through the prophecies, through having the understanding according to the scriptures. We know that we're not living in a time of peace. We're living in a time of evil, man. And that's what's about to come, right? But this is verse 4. It says, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that that day should overtake you as a thief, right? And the reason why these days are not going to overtake us as a thief, because we're watching, we're paying attention to the prophecies, we're paying attention to the things that these devils are putting in place. We see everything that's about to come. So that's why we're not in the darkness. That when this day does happen, we're not going to be overtaken by it like these people are that are in the world, because they're not expecting these things to come. So when they do happen, these people are going to be taken off guard, right? That's why it's going to come upon them as a thief, right? So this is verse 5. It said, ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness, right? Because these people in the world, they're in darkness, man. You know, they're not watching what's happening around the world as far as which prophecies, you know, they're not, you know, paying attention to, you know, the things that are happening around them. They're not in the spirit of being circumspect. They're not watching as well as praying, right? So that's why they're in darkness. They're asleep. You know, this is verse 6. It said, therefore, let us not sleep as do others, but let us watch and be sober. And that's what we got to continue to do, brothers and sisters, because like I said, we don't know when these situations can occur. You know, I mean, these things can take place when we least suspect it, you know. That's why we got to always be in the loop of watching, right? And paying attention, right? And I'm actually go to that. This is Matthew chapter 10. And I'm going to start at verse 16 in the KJV, right? And it says, behold, I send you forth as sheep, right? We're those sheep, being the believers, the hopeful elect brothers and sisters, in the midst of wolves, right? We're in the midst of these wolves, these people. Ultimately, they're dead, right? They're dead spiritually, mainly the 2/3 of our people. It says, be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And that's the spirit we got to be in, being wise, man. Watching as well as observing, you know, seeing the things that are happening around us, being able to measure the times diligently, man, knowing that, hey, anything is bound to pop off at any given time, man, right? So we just got to be prepared spiritually now more than ever, you know, being in that spirit of, you know, just watching, man, being circumspect, you know, paying attention to our surroundings more. Because, I mean, we never know, like I said, when these things are bound to happen, man, you know, when, the power grid could shut off. I mean, you know, we know these things are going to happen. That's why we prepare ourselves now in the spirit by getting closer and closer to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Because we know that there's going to be evil like never before fastly coming to this place, America, man. And we know it's going to come very soon. But we know also that it's going to come when we least suspect it. But that's why we got to always be watching so that this day does not, when it does happen, does not overtake us as that thief, man. Right? So, yeah, you know, that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. Just something quick through the spirit. Till the next time, I'm going to say shalom.